Happy Monday and welcome to your Newsmax Daily for November the 24th, 2025, the 328th day of the year as we kick off Thanksgiving week. Hopefully you had a fantastic and safe weekend. As you can hear, I may have had a little too much fun. Or I'm coming down with something like a lot of other people because we went from the mid-50s to nearly 90 degrees in a day. And if you're traveling today, it may not be fun. Good luck. The rush on the nation's highways and airports is already underway and will ramp up, as you know, each day throughout the week. If you're a mystery buff or live in Washington State, today is D.B. Cooper Day, recognizing the guy who hijacked a plane back in 1971, parachuting out with a suitcase full of cash under the alias D.B. Cooper. I'm sure you've heard about the story. He has never been found. His real name has never been discovered. $200,000 in cash is what he got away with in 1971. That would be the equivalent of roughly $1.5 million today. On the White House calendar, the First Lady, Melania Trump, welcomes the official Christmas tree on the North Lawn today. Later this afternoon, President Trump is scheduled to sign an executive order to cap prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices at the lowest cost offered to any other country. Back on Friday, the administration put an executive order meant to preempt state laws on AI on hold. That order was likely to face a lot of pushback from state leaders who spoke out against the order when Trump initially signed it, saying it could hurt their ability to protect the people of their state from fraud and other things. And we absolutely have to go back to Friday for President Trump's meeting with New York City's newly elected radical mayor, Zohran Mamdani. A meeting that caught most supporters on both sides by surprise. Big story on all the weekend talkers, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning from Congress. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, we start with Carl Higbie on Frontline, who says this shows President Trump is willing to talk to anyone about anything, but thinks this could hurt Zohran Mamdani with his radical Democrat colleagues.
Take that out of my bingo card. The Ugandan socialist immigrant standing next to the president. From the tone of the Oval Office, you would have thought these guys were like longtime buddies.
But I just want to congratulate. I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am. I will say there's no difference in party. There's no difference in anything. And we're going to be helping him to make everybody's dream come true, having a strong and very safe New York. And congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, like, what changed from this?
I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in.
Just look at the result of yesterday's election in New York, where their party installed a communist as the mayor.
I will treat his threats as they deserve to be treated, which are the words of a president and not necessarily the law of the land.
We're going to have a lot of fun with him, watching him, because he has to come right to this building to get his money. And don't worry, he's not going to run away with anything. I think frankly, I've heard he's a total nut job.
I mean, okay, politics, I guess. But look, I don't think this actually hurts Trump at all. If anything, it helps him because I know he's still going to send ICE in there. All right. But Mamdani, his base ain't not going to like this. They wanted him to go in there, fisticuffs, resist mantra. Hey, look, just watch. I bet there's going to be a ton of fallout from his, the Democrat Socialists of America hardcore base, especially when he sat silent when our own Mike Carter actually asked him this.
You've threatened to send federal troops to New York City. You both have differences when it comes to ICE agents in New York City. I wonder how you reconcile your differences on both of those issues.
Well, I think we're going to work them out. And I think that if we have known murderers and known drug dealers and some very bad people, we want to get them out.
And Mamdani didn't say a word.
Not only didn't he say anything, but he was sort of shaking his head in agreement. Bob Brooks spoke about it with former New York City Mayor and Trump confidant Rudy Giuliani, who wasn't particularly happy about it.
Okay, joining us now, someone who knows about being mayor of New York City, the former mayor, America's mayor, Rudy Giuliani. He joins us tonight on Friday night. Mayor, always a pleasure. Good to see you.
Very nice to see you.
We'll talk about it. The meeting today with Mamdani in the Oval Office, I think kind of different than maybe we all expected. Yeah, chummier, they had some nice moments. Little unexpected. What'd you make of it?
It was unexpected. I'll say I expected it to be cordial. They always are with the president. I mean, the president conducts himself that way unless someone gets stupid, which people should realize. This is the way the man acts all his life. I don't know. I have, I guess, stronger feelings. It is the position that I held and gave 8 years of my life to. And to see it go to a child, irresponsible, ne'er-do-well communist,
right,
is frightening. Even more frightening is his embrace of extremist fundamentalist Islam, which is a very, very strong embrace. I mean, the people that he has been associating with are people way back I had under investigation. One of them was an unindicted co-conspirator for the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center. These are things I lived through. I was in New York then. I was running for mayor when that happened. It could be one of the reasons I was elected mayor, because Dinkins was in Japan when that happened and didn't seem to know what the hell to do about it. And I promised to put together an effort against terrorism that became the prototype, really, for the terrorism task force all around the country.
Yeah, Mayor, I think that so many young people voted for Mamdani that they don't even know about that. They weren't even born yet, and they've been drawn to his movement here. And I think part of the reason why maybe, and this is just my observation, the reason why President Trump had him in the Oval Office today was to maybe try and calm some of those fears that business owners might have, that people might have here in New York, to say, hey, look, I am the president of the United States here. I want to see New York City, his hometown, all cities really do well, despite the fact of who holds the office of mayor now. Do you think that was part of it?
Oh, it certainly was, and I think, look, I can have my views on the percentage that this is going to work out. Do I think it was a smart way to start? Sure, it was a smart way to start. And now any deterioration in the relationship will be by the communist and Islamic extremist sympathizer, not by the president. Of course, I want to see New York City do well. I want to see myself wrong about him. I'd like to see him change. I mean, my goodness, St. Augustine converted. He could convert, right? Right. But all of that doesn't belie the fact that it makes me sick to my stomach to see that man in the Oval Office.
Now, Mayor, so much of Mamdani's campaign was, dismantling. He even said on his, I played this clip tonight, his victory speech, that he wanted to dismantle parts of the system that allowed people like Donald Trump to have and build success here in New York City. So as mayor, what kind of levers could he realistically pull to implement his agenda, which is extreme? And he talked about changing New York City in his vision.
I'll give you a very, very rough analysis of it. Assuming he's really good politically, not meaning running around and campaigning, but I mean at the intricacies of politics, the way President Trump is, by the way. He could implement about half of it. He can't implement all of it. Only unless Hochul is willing to give up the governorship and go in whole hog with him. If she does, she'll get ruined in upstate New York. The people in upstate New York are not, people who can be jerked around with. They're very serious people. And the vote against Mamdani is going to be tremendous because she supported him. So she's in a real bind. Does she support him? In which case she gets his rather considerable communist, socialist, crazy Democrat base. If she does, she loses upstate New York by a record, and Nassau County was his biggest enemy. That's the county right next to it.
Right.
So you lose the suburban counties big, you lose upstate New York big. That's how George Pataki became governor. That's how Nelson Rockefeller for years became governor. That's how Republicans get elected in the state.
Right, right. Okay, well, obviously, we'll keep an eye on it. The era is here, though. The mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, Mayor, I thought it was interesting to have a socialist, or as President Trump says, a communist in the Oval Office, and then you saw the statue of George Washington on his left, on his flank there, and wow, it was a historic day. Mayor Giuliani, thanks for coming on.
Might not be a bad idea to get a Catholic priest to come in and bless the place now.
Might not be.
Bob Brooks with former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, who I think echoes the sentiments of many Trump supporters and many people, at least people that have a stake in New York, right? We know the way Trump works, and we know that New York is very important to him on several different levels. But the newly elected mayor needed that meeting at the White House a whole lot more than President Trump needed it.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
I think you're going to have hopefully a really great mayor. The better he does, the happier I am.
The overall sentiment, including myself, is people would have liked for Trump to be a lot less gracious to him, especially when asked about New York Republican Representative Elise Stefanik, who's running for governor, and when asked about Mamdani calling him a fascist, the president said basically, it's all just campaign talk, it's fine. To me, that just reinforces what most people already think and believe, right? You cannot believe or trust anything that any candidate says when they're running for office. Basically, they'll say anything to get elected. That's what that shows. Am I wrong? The other big weekend story, as I mentioned, the resignation of Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, MTG. The president was asked about her again yesterday next to Marine One while leaving the White House for Andrews Air Force Base.
I just disagreed with her philosophy. She started backing perhaps the worst Republican congressman in our history, this stupid person named Massey, and I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived a primary. But I think she's a nice person.
This is Greg Kelly, host of Greg Kelly Reports.
Big breaking news. The Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia has just announced her resignation from Congress. MTG, previously a MAGA superstar, one of President Trump's strongest, most vocal allies until recently, is leaving Congress in early January. Many of us do know that there's been a major rift, a falling out with President Trump over the past 10 days ago or so. She was very upset that there was not more progress in the Epstein files. We saw some information going back and forth. She was texting the president her frustration. President Trump released a brutal Truth Social about her, calling her Marjorie Taylor Greene and calling her wacky and bothered by her phone calls. I always assumed that they would make up at some point, but no, she is leaving Congress in the beginning of the year. She recently made an appearance on The View and on CNN, and I do remember thinking she was, well, it was a different Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I thought in the back of my head, you know what, she just might be plotting a run for president, and this could be a part of that. We're still absorbing the news here, but we have a statement. She basically cites a dysfunctional Congress, and well, few can argue with that. We have actually some sound that has been uploaded to her X account, and we're going to listen. Marjorie Taylor Greene announcing her resignation from Congress this coming January.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms. I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office with my last day being January 5th, 2026.
How about that? Okay, and saying it out loud, the primary. Yes, there were threats, very serious threats from the president himself of funding a challenger to Marjorie Taylor Greene, I believe in the 14th district of Georgia.
So nobody really knows what MTG is up to. If there are further political aspirations, or if she has seen enough and has too much self-respect to stay in politics, as she said, or at least in Washington politics, my guess would be that she is going to run for governor. I don't know about the whole presidential thing. That seems like a bit of a stretch, certainly at this point for her, but who knows? But the fallout between her and President Trump and her future will continue to be a big story this week, as will the Epstein files that she pushed so strongly for. Newsmax's Jonathan Glasgow spoke about it yesterday with one of the highest authorities on the Epstein files, Alan Dershowitz. And you need to listen to this until the very end when Dershowitz, who was Epstein's attorney at one point, talks specifically about Donald Trump and Epstein.
Of the Epstein Files, Professor Emeritus of Harvard Law School and author of Get Trump, Alan Dershowitz. Great to have you here. Professor, with these new documents, is it going to be enough to satisfy everyone that has been calling for them, in your opinion?
No, this is the new McCarthyism. This is the same as what Joseph McCarthy did in the 1950s. He would hold up a piece of paper and say, I have a list of names of communists. And we're seeing members of Congress, several of them, including the one who just announced their resignation, that she was going to get on the floor of Congress and hold up a list of 20 people without an opportunity to respond. This is pure McCarthyism. They're going after the lawyers, people like Starr and myself, who represented Jeffrey Epstein. They're presenting witnesses who are overt liars. Let me give you an example. One of the key witnesses is a woman named Maria Farma. Here's what she's accused only Jews of being pedophiles. Here's what she said in a recorded interview. I have a hard time with the Jewish people. All the Jewish people I met are pedophiles who run the world economy. They're Jewish supremacists. They're people under the influence of the Rothschild. Now, these are the kinds of witnesses that are being used. Yeah. This is McCarthyism. And what they're doing is suppressing the information. For example, CNN featured Maria Farmer over and over again, never mentioning her anti-Semitism, never mentioning her bigotry, never mentioning her lies. So we have to be so careful, whether it's Democrat or Republican. If somebody's accused, as I was falsely accused, you must have an opportunity to respond and prove your innocence, which I was able to do. But if they don't give the information out, if they suppress the information, then to be the victims of McCarthyism.
We shall see. And some of that might be in that grand jury testimony that the Department of Justice is trying to get. Democrats, though, they're making this all about the politics. And some of them really haven't done their homework. Take, for example, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who was on the House floor claiming that several Republicans took donations from Epstein, including Lee Zeldin. Watch this moment here, Professor.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly. Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush, Win Red, McCain Palin, Rick Lazio. I just want to be clear.
So Crockett, her team clearly got it wrong there. They're referring to a person named Jeffrey Epstein who donated to Zeldin after Epstein died. It was a totally different person, but she went on to defend this lie. Watch.
I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. My team, what they did is they Googled, and that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
So, Professor, the point here is that the Democrats, do they even care what's in the Epstein files, or are they just trying to make this political to try to get Trump?
Of course, and that Congresswoman is just a liar. What she said, someone named Jeffrey Epstein. That's exactly what McCarthy used to do. Someone named John Smith. They didn't care if it was the right person. She's a disgrace to Congress and should be obviously sanctioned for accusing somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, one of whom is a prominent doctor in Long Island. It's a very common name. And by the way, once you start with the names like that, it's a Jewish name. And there's been a significant amount of anti-Semitism surrounding these claims, like Maria Farmer, all Jews. All pedophiles are Jews. So we have to be careful about this over generalization. Let's look where the evidence is. Jeffrey Epstein did terrible things. He should be, and he should have been, prosecuted for what he did, not for what he didn't do. The same is true of all other people, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. If a person is guilty, by the way, so far I've seen no evidence of anybody beyond Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. There have been allegations, but no proof. There have been all these names thrown out, including Senator Mitchell, the former governor of New Mexico, Prime Minister of Israel. All these names have been thrown out without any allegations. Again, the closest thing in my lifetime that has ever come to this Epstein phenomenon is the McCarthyism of the 1940s and 1950s.
The question I have is if Epstein has something on Trump, why would he need to text Stacey Plaskett about, some of his financial dealings if he wanted to sue her Trump? If he has something on him, why wouldn't he have brought it out then when he was still alive?
Much better evidence than that, personal evidence. I asked Jeffrey Epstein when I was trying to make the deal for him, which they called the sweetheart deal. Epstein fired me, thought it was such a terrible deal. But when I was debriefing him, I gave him a list of names. I said, do you have anything on any of these people? If you do, we can use that to help you. One of the names was Donald Trump. And he said, absolutely not. And I said, are you sure? If we have anything on Donald Trump, that would be useful to help you get a deal. I said the same thing about Leslie Wexner. I said the same thing about many, many other prominent people. And in some instances, Epstein said yes. In some instances, no. When it came to Donald Trump, he was categorical. He didn't like Trump, but he had nothing on him. That's the best evidence, because he would have been motivated to go after Trump if he had anything whatsoever on him in order to get a better deal for himself.
Constitutional law expert and Harvard professor emeritus Alan Dershowitz on Sunday Agenda with John Glasgow. Remember, during the government shutdown, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins said that when this was all over, she and the department were going to investigate and revamp the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Well, over the weekend, Secretary Rollins said her department has now identified 186,000 deceased men, women, and children that are receiving SNAP checks. 186,000, and they're just getting started. She says they're getting ready to have all SNAP recipients reapply to the program and reevaluate all of their credentials and need for the program. And speaking of checks, now the tariff dividend checks, what I've been calling the profit sharing checks that apparently most of us probably won't qualify for anyway with the guidelines the Treasury wants to use, not only won't they go out now until next year, if ever, but they have already been pushed from maybe the summer to probably after the summer. Like 9 months from now, 10 months from now. And while Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others held a second day of talks with Ukraine and Switzerland, Russian drones pummeled the city of Kharkiv, Ukraine. President Trump had called for a response on his 28-point plan to end the war before Thanksgiving, but that deadline is being pushed back to after Thanksgiving, as the U.S. negotiators there, Rubio and others, said they were making great progress in narrowing the differences with Ukraine. Ukrainian President Zelensky also said that he thinks President Trump is really beginning to understand the need of Ukrainian people. On Wall Street, stocks started the holiday shortened trading week in the green. The NASDAQ up more than 200 points this morning. Several key economic reports that were delayed during the 43-day government shutdown will be released this week, including the October retail sales numbers and the producer price index. That comes out tomorrow, both of which could weigh into the Federal Reserve's potential interest rate cut at next week's Fed policy meeting. On Wednesday, the weekly initial jobless claims numbers will be released a day early because of the holiday. And don't forget the holiday shopping season, Black Friday through Cyber Monday. It's like the Super Bowl for cyber criminals and hackers. So make sure you're protected on all of your devices with 75% off WebRoot Total Protection. Holy cow, Tony, you said 60% off was the biggest discount they ever offered. And it was. Until now, an unprecedented 75% off because they want everyone to be protected. Real-time antivirus protection against emerging threats like malware, ransomware, phishing scams, etc. Password manager to protect logins and passwords, advanced dark web monitoring, credit and financial monitoring with rapid alerts, VPN backup, that hides your IP addresses, personal data, and location from the hackers and much more. So protect yourself and your family from cybercrime this holiday season with 75% off WebRoot Total Protection only at webroot.com/Newsmax. That's 75% off for a limited time only at webroot.com/Newsmax. Live a better digital life with WebRoot. Again, webroot.com/Newsmax. Do it now. Do it today. And be sure to keep up with all of today's news on Newsmax, N2, and at Newsmax.com. Also, make sure you have the Newsmax app on your phone so you're up to date anywhere, anytime. The news starts every morning, 6 o'clock Eastern with Wake Up America, early edition, followed by Wake Up America, National Report, American Agenda, John Bachman now on N2, The Briefing with Ed Henry, Frontline with Carl Higbie, Rob Schmitt, Finnerty, Greg Kelly reports at 9, and much, much more. I'm Tony Marino. If you enjoy the podcast, please share it with others. It's Carolina at the 49ers on Monday Night Football. How about that Dallas-Philly game yesterday? Take that, Jim Cramer. And I'm not even a Dallas fan, but my wife is. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.